This is the Been There, Done That podcast. I am Matthew DeLawyer and I'm with Amy Lawton. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We'll get started into a little journal article I have come across from the great Natalie Burton, who I've a previous podcast guest. And this is what she has to say about dealing with criticism. I've always struggled to put into practice the usual advice people offer when receiving criticism from others. You know the standard, don't pay any attention to those who criticize you and judge your performance. This has always seemed so much easier said than done for me, as my default reaction has been to let the negative comments feed my own self-doubts and beliefs. I guess it's because the criticism that hurts the most is the one that mirrors what we already believe about ourselves. For me, I believed I was never good enough throughout many stages of my basketball career. So when I heard people online questioning my selection in the 2016 Rio Olympic team, I listened, and I let the words find a home within me. Actually, I tried to tell myself not to pay any attention to those people's opinions, and I pretended like they hadn't affected me. I knew rationally that these people had not been there for all of my trainings and workouts, and had not witnessed the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into behind the scenes to get selected. They were not the decision makers for the team because they were not my coach, so the feedback could not contain any critical, useful information that could be used to enhance my performance. Their feedback was therefore literally irrelevant. But I still believe them. These comments found root within me because they confirmed the belief I already had about myself, that I wasn't good enough. It was a constant battle between the rational thoughts and the part of me that believed my worth and wholeness was determined by my performance and capabilities on the basketball court. Every time I heard criticisms about my performance, the more attention I gave them. I was essentially watering a weed, allowing it to grow larger and larger as I gave it more and more of my mental energy. Each watering can only confirmed my limiting belief and have found even deeper root within me. So someone telling me simply to not listen to the people who criticize me and judge my performance really didn't help me. And it's no real surprise when we understand that our focus is our fuel, and whatever thoughts we focus on are the ones that will grow and influence our actions and behaviors. The key then is to change the way we perceive feedback. Feedback is not personal, it is simply information. If it is coming from another person, then it is information about how that person sees things, their own assumptions, opinions, and beliefs. So when a person gives you their opinion about their performance, it actually doesn't tell you anything about you, but rather about the person giving the feedback. When we see the world this way, we don't end up attaching any sort of meaning about ourselves to the words of others. Using my story as an example, the information I was receiving was really only telling me one thing: what these people liked and disliked in a basketball player. It did not determine my worth, it did not tell me if I was good enough to play at the level, and it certainly didn't tell me if I was capable of playing basketball or not. It was purely information being given to me, and I get to choose how I let that affect me. That is the real kicker. It now becomes a question of what you are going to do with that information. Are you going to let someone else's words poison you? Are you going to give them power? Or will you put your energy and focus into your own self-efficacy? That is, your own knowledge and belief in your abilities without doubt. I'll leave you with one more idea. When we can reflect on the feedback that hurts the most, we can actually learn a lot more about ourselves. If the criticism stings and takes root within you, remember, it is shining a spotlight on a limiting belief we have about ourselves. This awareness provides you with an insight into the way you may be holding yourself back. Now you can choose to take action either based on your negative self-beliefs, or you can go for what you want to achieve. This is how you truly learn and grow from every experience you have in life, no matter the outcome. So quite a deep, meaningful bit of a post there, but also I think it relays a lot of what happens these days when we kind of react on emotion rather than taking a breath and thinking through what people tell us. So I think it's important for a message to everyone who listens to take something like that on board and to somehow improve their lives.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely agree. And especially as elite athletes, that's something that's constantly going through your head
Exactly.
a lot of the time. So,
Guess social media and all that doesn't help
for
with all
sure
that.
these days, yeah.
So, Amy, tell me, let's go right back to the beginning so we get a good understanding of yourself. Where did it all begin?
Well, I started playing hockey when I was 8. Back home in Victoria, I started at Casey Cannon's hockey club because it was advertised in my school's newsletter. So very random way to start playing. But both my parents played a little bit at school and were like, oh, why don't you give it a go? And so, yeah, that's, I guess, how I started. And then very soon after that, I moved to Southern United Hockey Club in Victoria and
Nice.
pretty much played there throughout my whole junior career as such.
So you said your parents played hockey as well?
Oh, just
No,
in school,
that's
not too seriously
When
though.
they were in school?
Yes, when they were in school, yeah. But they played squash
Yeah.
professionally for Zimbabwe. That's where they were born and were raised. So pretty random place, but yes, that's where they're from. So
That's where they're from. When did they move over?
they moved to the UK and I was born in England and so was my sister. And then we moved here when I was 6, I think. So yeah.
Oh, righto. So how did that? So do you remember much of the UK at all growing up there?
No, not really. I don't remember much. I just remember, I think I had like a primary school boyfriend. I think that's all I remember. Yeah, don't remember much about the UK because I was still really young when we moved.
Do you remember like moving over to Australia and having to were you aware of what was happening?
I don't know. I don't think I recall that much. I just think I remember like when we first came here and then where we were living and then trying to, I guess, find a place to stay and live. Initially, we were jumping around places kind of initially, like renting, and then we went to another place renting, and then we ended up buying where we're living now in Emerald, so in the hills a bit more. But that's all I really recall. And I think going to primary school, kind of that first phases, I guess, of being in Australia was all I really remember. But otherwise, not too much else other than looking at photos and laughing at some of the things. I think one of the funny things I remember is in a photo is my sister, I think, turned 3 when we were just arriving, and there was a cake in the back of the car that we were I don't know, I guess moving with, and it was squashed in the back seat with all the stuff shoved into the car. And that's a photo that I remember, I guess, and reminds me a little bit of that move. Yeah.
So you can almost just say, we're going to say that athleticism runs in your blood. Both your parents played high-level squash. Squash is quite an intense sport.
Yes, and I've tried once and was
really
very bad at it. Yeah, just for fun, and
they never took you out and like, come, here's the racket, here's the ball.
No, which is quite weird because usually parents, influence kids to play the sport they did, but no, never really played squash at all, which is very weird. But Dad loved soccer and I also did soccer, so maybe that's what he wanted me to do. He was like, "There's more money in soccer, go play that." I don't know, but yeah, never really tried squash properly anyway. But I feel like I wouldn't be very good at like 5-meter shuttles.
That's right.
Yeah.
But even hockey though, hockey's lots of shuttles on, not so much
maybe
short shuttles, but they're longer runs, but there's a lot of change of direction.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you were 8 when you started hockey. Mm-hmm. Where did it go from there?
So like I said, I moved to Southern when I was maybe 9 or 10, and I played there. They had a really good juniors program, and that's kind of why I moved there. And I guess I started there, played with them all the way through, and made my first state team under 12 girls when I was 10. So I was a bit young, but I think all I really remember from that was just being the little striker. I think I was just running up and down. I didn't really do much else on the field, didn't have much of an impact on the game, just ran a lot. And I was also, I feel like generally quite an active child. I played soccer, I did triathlon, I did little athletics, I did basketball, kind of, everything under the sun that a junior athlete plays. So I think for me, when I eventually had to kind of make a choice when I was a bit older, it was purely because I was better at hockey, to enjoy the, I guess, environment and community more, and the training load was slowly taking over the other sports. So
Did you, thinking back on all those other sports that you played, do you feel like there was one, or there was certain sports that helped with hockey at all? Like, did you feel like there's like a synergy of sports?
Well, I think definitely soccer, because it's quite similar style game. Obviously use your feet though rather than your hands. But I guess maybe style of play similar, so that might have had an influence. But I think definitely triathlon helped with my fitness, because I just remember doing those training sessions at school and it was just so tough having to do. And I was not a good swimmer, so I can swim but I'm not good at it. When I went to nationals for triathlon, I ended up coming out of the water in last place, so I had a lot of work to make up for.
What did you make up?
I think I ended up coming like 8th last instead of last. So
you like running then?
Well, I'm definitely better at running than swimming, that's for sure, which is good now for hockey.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's for sure. And then was it hockey? Were you a bit of like an inkling, like you were naturally kind of skilled with it, or did you have to work at it to kind of get better?
I definitely had to work at
Yeah.
it because, like I said, I just was running a lot initially as a youngster. But I guess something clicked in my head that maybe I wanted to be better at it, or I don't know if my parents were like, "Come on, you can actually be all right at it if you try a bit harder." And so I don't know where the idea came from, but I started doing 100 drags, just left to right drags every single day, and we had in our like backyard, I guess, like 1 by 2 meter bit of turf, which it was enough space to do that.
Yeah.
So I just started doing that every day, and I think now my control and stuff, I guess, ball skill and handling is actually probably one of my strongest assets. So I would honestly put that back on my 100 drags every day as little Amy was doing in the backyard, because otherwise I don't think I would have been on the ball as much in games and different things like that, which definitely helped. Maybe that was the,
right.
turning point and
So
improvement point.
how long was the streak? How long did you keep that up for?
Oh, I'm not sure actually, but I just remember if I was inside, not, sitting on the couch after school, not going to do it, mum and dad were like, "Come on, it's going to help you." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh, really?
I know. So they definitely had a big influence in, I guess, my improvement and, I guess, progression as I got older. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're a bit more like reinforcing. They weren't so much like pushing you into the sport, but like, like reinforcing that.
Yeah.
This
for
is
sure.
the skill. Like you said, you want to do it, so it's time to do it. Did you have like at a point there where like it was like a discipline thing, like a bit of momentum? If I stop doing it, then it'll take harder to get back into it. Or you weren't really thinking.
Well, I don't know if I thought of it like that. I think I maybe thought of it more as I was actually starting to see myself do better in games and at training and things. And I just remember I was definitely one of the weakest kids in my shield team, as it was called, which is like the highest level of junior team. In under, I don't know, under 10s or under 12s or whatever age group it was when I was in the juniors. And I was definitely the worst player on the team until I started doing these 100 drags, and I slowly started getting better. And then I went to play midfield more and was getting more on the ball. So I think maybe it wasn't necessarily a discipline thing, but I was like, oh, it's working, so I'm going to keep doing this. It's definitely making an impact on the field as well.
Do you feel like now that you're up in the national program, starting something that was, not that it was hard, but you kind of kept at it for a period of time, and 100 drags, doing that helps you now because the importance of practice, drilling, and the technical side of the game a bit more?
Yeah, for
instead
sure.
Instead of just, playing out when you were younger?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it has, like, that mental aspect of it has an impact now, because if I was to think of something similar, I guess, that I've potentially experienced more recently is pre-Olympics, when we were back home because of COVID and we were almost doing pre-season running again. I just remembered when it was tough, I was going, I have to finish this session, otherwise I won't make the Olympic team. Like, I have to get through it so I can put my best foot forward to make the team. So I think maybe that's the discipline aspect that came into play, after reinforcing, I guess, as a youngster, going, oh, it's actually working. Now I'm going, oh, I have to do this because it's working, kind of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was like, if I don't do it, I'll get in trouble or anything.
Yeah.
I think I'm someone who doesn't like missing out on the opportunity to try and make myself better, in the sense that I'd hate missing out on a session or on a conditioning session or something, because I guess growing up, my parents were always like, there's always someone out there who's doing just a bit more or a little bit harder. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're kind of working hard and, I guess, trying to be that person, I guess, out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's professional, like they're instilling a professional mindset type of a thing.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you did those under 12s state team, you said you made, and then you went out and you played that. And how old were you then?
I was 10 at that one, yeah. Yep. So youngster.
Yeah, was there a noticeable difference, or at that age you don't really, like, there's a lot of not so much of a discrepancy in skill and physical development?
I think in the younger age groups, if there's a tall kid who's, can smash a ball really hard, it's definitely a benefit. And I wasn't that kid. I was very small. And yeah, like I said, was really more the runner than the hitter or anything. And I think in that age group, if you've got someone who can smack a ball, you'll get to the other end, no worries. Whereas now, obviously, that's not really a thing you can do when you get older. But I guess the skill thing, definitely in that first state team, also might have been a bit of a like realization, I think, because that was the first opportunity to play against other states. So yeah, I think it was a good, I guess, first look into what it could be like for me as I grew up a bit older. Yeah.
Did you, well, not sure if you remember much, but do you remember if you fitted in like skill wise? Did you feel like you weren't out of play? You didn't miss a beat in terms of like position wise and playing, or you did naturally fit it in?
Oh, I can't remember exactly, but I mean, I hope I fit it in okay. But if not, I feel like I would have learned from that, because I feel like in the state teams after that, I fitted in well and felt comfortable out on the field and with the girls. And so I'm not too sure.
Is it rare to have someone who's 10 in a under 12 in a state team?
I'm not too sure nowadays, but I think I was definitely the youngest in that team, but I'm now used to being the youngest member of things. So it's just kind of, I guess, been a running thing. Yeah, no, I've just gotten used to it over time, I think. But I'm not sure now if it's common, but maybe.
So where did you go from there? So under 12s finished was it state champs? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That finished. Did it go on, and what else did you do after that?
Well, after that, I just continued making the juniors representative sides. So did under 13s, under 15s, under 16s, under 18s, under 21s, and again, usually underage. So sometimes I was doing 16s and 18s, or 18s and 21s.
As a 15.
Well, yeah. So 21s, I did, I think, 4 to 5 years underage, maybe.
Wow.
So what's that? Yeah. Not sure. 16, 17.
Right.
For like 21s. But I guess, I was just used to that because I was generally playing underage age groups. And then as I was playing the older age groups, I then wasn't playing my own age group of age. So actually growing up, didn't really know many people in my own age group because I was playing against more older, more senior girls, I think. Yeah, definitely in the later years.
With all of that, all your hockey commitments, did that take away from school at all? Or were you still obviously at school? And
yeah, well, it definitely had an impact for sure. I mean, in year 12, I missed a term's worth of school, so a quarter of the year. Not ideal for year 12, of course. No. But I think like as I got older and I was, I guess, getting into more representative sides and then junior Aussie stuff, my relationship got stronger with my teachers and I guess the VIS staff and people who I could get extra support from because I needed it. And I was just really honest with people, I guess, in that kind of, I guess, community to be like, hey, I need help with something. So if I was behind in, let's say, English, I just go to my English teacher and be honest and be like, hey, I need some help with getting this done. You know, so I definitely tried to keep up school and my parents were very much reminding me school's still a thing. So yeah.
So did you get recognised in the VIS over there in Victoria, isn't it? When did you get picked up in their system?
I was only in the VIS for a year before I made the national team. Wow. So I wasn't really in the system for very long.
Well, not, so 18?
Yeah.
The 18 you'll pick recognised in there. So you had in the
I would have been 17 actually. 17. Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. So you've had all that. You get picked up in the how's work again? Goes to national junior squad. You're recognised there.
National junior squad, and then Hockeyroo's development.
Did you go on any tours along the way in there?
I went on the one that's not national junior squad, but kind of related was Youth Olympics.
Oh yeah.
So that's under 18s, which is the same age group as junior squad. And that was in 2018. To Buenos Aires in Argentina, and that was a really cool experience. Some of the like organizers and staff there related that to one of the most similar youth Olympics to a real Olympics in the style and how it was organized and everything. So I think that was a pretty cool opportunity to go to. And then in the same year, I did Hockeyroo under 21s national team in New Zealand, which was just a series against New Zealand there. So that was in 2018. And then 2019, I debuted with Hockeyroo. So yeah, it was pretty fast, I guess, transitional phase.
Oh my God. That's 3 years.
Yeah.
Almost. 2018. Yeah, 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
So in the youth, going back to the Youth Olympics, was that same setup? Was it like, you have your big, all the countries would go there, you have the whole setup?
Yeah, so pretty much now going to the Olympics this year, I guess I could have a better comparison, like seeing it firsthand, but definitely the same with the village style and all the countries living, amongst each other, the dining hall, like all that stuff was very, very similar. You catch your bus to your game. But obviously COVID wasn't there at the time. So we had a little bit more freedom, I guess, going in and out of the village. So like our families were there and we could go hang out with them on our rest days and whatnot. But yes, very, very similar style to Tokyo this year for sure.
And it's all, I guess, in preparation. So if people in the Youth Olympics, they end up in the Olympics, they're not like a fish out of water, I guess. It's a bit of a similar experience. Yeah. Was there anyone in that team over in the same team that made it this year in Tokyo?
Yeah, well, there was 2 people. A trampolinist.
Yep.
She went to Youth Olympics. I was actually pretty good friends with her at Youth Olympics, and then she went to Tokyo, so that was pretty cool. And then a shooter, he also went to Youth Olympics and went to Tokyo this year. So it was pretty weird, like almost reuniting at an Olympics after being friends at Youth Olympics. And I hadn't really seen them, I guess, in between because of COVID, and they lived in another state. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we just saw each other. Oh, hey.
Yeah, and I think there's also a couple of swimmers, even a couple of the girls that medaled went to Youth Olympics also. So it's pretty cool to see a lot of other youngsters, I guess, doing well at the, the main stage, the big stage as such. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And then so you had the Gillaroos one as well. That was obviously a tour. Where did you go?
That was just in New Zealand, but it was just against New Zealand. So it wasn't like a Junior World Cup style that they do in 21s.
Just a normal. How many games did you play?
I think 3 games against, literally just a mini series against New Zealand.
3 games. Yeah.
So 3 games in New Zealand. I think it was in maybe Auckland. Can't remember exactly, but yeah.
How'd you find? Obviously, you were very young going over there. How did you kind of? And obviously, everyone would have been older than you. How did you kind of fit in? Was it just easy? Like you didn't even notice it, or was it? Do you feel like you fish out of water, kind of, or not really?
Well, I feel like I knew quite a lot of the girls from national tournaments in the lead up to, both junior, like I guess, Youth Olympics and New Zealand with the Gillas girls. And we also, I guess, had been in contact. Just, I feel like the hockey world is just, a lot of people in the hockey world because, it is quite small. And we were all on the same pathway as such, I guess, trying to make the national team. So I did know them quite well, and there was a couple of other Victorian girls there. So I didn't feel out like a fish out of water because if I had to fall back onto anyone, there were Victorian girls that I knew and was friends with that I could hang out with.
Along all of that, because it kind of just seemed like it went straight up. Along the way, did it ever kind of come to you, or did you think, okay, like, what is it? Your goal was always to kind of get to the Australian squad, or did you kind of think, I'm just going along for the ride type of thing?
I think when I was young, being quite active, I always wanted to go to an Olympics because always watched it on TV, and it was just so huge, the whole, I guess, pinnacle of the games. So I think it was definitely something that was in the back of my mind, but I think I also tried to make sure I enjoyed everything that I went on. I mean, looking at Youth Olympics, for example, I was the only one of the hockey teams to go to the opening ceremony, just because it was a choice that we got to make on our own. And I was like, I'm not missing out. This is the one opportunity I will get to ever go to a Youth Olympics because I'll be too old this time. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the opening ceremony because I knew that I would still get enough sleep and be able to still perform the next day. Yep. And I felt like I did. So, I mean, I guess linking that back is I just tried to make sure I enjoyed every moment of the pathway as much as I didn't, wasn't in it for that long, I guess. I still felt like I made the most of every opportunity I had with every age group I was in. Yeah.
Before coming over to Perth in the national program, did you kind of have any kind of challenges you had to kind of get around? Did you like a technique or anything like that?
Not for hockey related. There was a few things. Obviously, like for me, my defensive skills are still something I'm working on. As a midfielder, it's still a very important aspect of the game. And I guess I hadn't really been able to compare myself against the national level girls that much, on obviously international level, none of the senior athletes that much. So for me, I was definitely trying to focus on more, I guess, showing my strengths and being able to do my strengths really well consistently. But yeah, there's definitely things that I was like struggling to, I guess, be on top of before I came here, because it was a bit stressful I'm going with all these amazing athletes that have been to, Olympics, 2 Olympics, potentially going to 3. And me just being a little youngster just out of high school kind of was a bit nerve-wracking. But I think for me in that final year before I moved here, it was definitely trying to finish school and get the ATAR I wanted to get into the course I wanted to do, whilst trying to, make the national squad was probably the biggest, I guess, tough thing to do in that period.
I can't even begin to imagine how much stress you would have been under, like with trying to get ATAR, doing all of that, and then having to still perform and do all of that. Did you do any kind of, I guess now mental type of training to kind of cope with, all right, I'm leaving schoolwork behind now, I'm not going to stress about that and just going to play hockey, or like train? I can imagine training and then having homework and all that sort of stuff on top of it
Yeah.
gets, hard.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, because I lived out of the city, we were doing quite a drive to get in. I know living in WA, anything over 20 minutes is far, but in Victoria, we were driving an hour to training, which isn't as bad as country people, but was still quite a lot to do regularly for, VIS stuff and state team stuff. So for me, I guess the routine was finish school, get in the car, eat a snack after school in the car that mum had prepared and organized, and then do work in the car, do my homework then. And then go and train. And for me, definitely the training that's hockey only. Let's not worry about school here. And I think that was, for me, I was actually really thankful for, because I know a lot of my friends would go home and just study and go back to school the next day and then go home and just study. And it was always study, study, study. And I think it's very important to have a bit of a balance. And I think for me, hockey allowed that balance almost naturally to occur. But yeah, I guess after training, then mum had dinner ready for me in a flask, and I'd have that on the way home, so I could go home, have a shower and get straight into bed, so then I could get a proper sleep as well, and then to do it all again the next day, really. Yeah.
Did did it take a while to kind of adjust to, because that's a lot of stress? Did you feel you were able to recover and then go again the next day? Did you feel like you're tired or anything like that?
I definitely felt tired sometimes. I mean, a good example was I'd get in the car to go to training and just nod off. Yeah, whilst I'm trying to do my work and just fall asleep at the computer. But yeah, no, I think my body definitely almost was used to it. I think as a junior doing so many sports, I guess I did soccer, triathlon and hockey at, for Victoria. So pretty high level for 3 sports. I was always doing something. So I guess my regular weekend, for example, getting rid of training in the week, it would be junior hockey on Friday night, school hockey on Saturday morning, senior hockey on Saturday afternoon, soccer on Sundays, and then sometimes a triathlon in there too. So it was, I guess I was, growing up, got used to the load and the busyness of it all, because I was just doing it and my body was just always on, I think, doing that stuff.
So you said that you worked on that technique and the skill work, and you did triathlon, so you're quite fit. Did you realize, or did you think there was ever a weakness in your game? You know what I mean? You had the physical side and you had the technical side. Did you kind of put the two together and be like, this is actually making me a better hockey player?
I definitely think they were making me a better hockey player. And I guess that was shown when we would then go and do hockey running and things like that. And I was feeling quite confident throughout it and was generally in some of the, faster groups as such in the sessions. But I think for me, I like to see that stuff as stuff I can control and can be better at. So even before I moved over to Perth for the national program, I knew one thing I could do was try and be my fittest self, not knowing who I was going to be up against and what the quality was going to be like, because I hadn't really played against these girls before. I knew one thing I could do and control is try and be as fit as I can. So if everything else, goes bad, I can still run and still try and have an impact in the game. So I think that I definitely did have weaknesses for sure. And I still do have weaknesses in my hockey game, but I think I try to see everything as, I can improve it. And if I can, try my hardest to do that. Yeah.
When was the first time you stepped into a gym?
Only when I joined the VIS, so literally a year before I came here. And it was so embarrassing when I came here, because then we have to do our testing before we, start lifting stuff. And I tried to do an overhead squat with just the bar, so just 20 kilos, and it just fell straight down over in front of me. And then Dave, who was our strength and conditioning coach, he was just like, okay, let's use the wooden stick, I think. And I was like, yep.
I think when you said just before, go and lift, before you do the strength testing before you go and lift things, I think that's quite a good summary of how young you are in the gym.
Yes.
You're lifting things.
Yeah, lifting things. I mean, I'm still not good at lifting things, but trying.
It's pick things up and put things there. That's all it is. You're lifting things up, putting it down. So when you first started, did you kind of, now obviously you've been in the system a couple of years now, do you feel like that's helped you along the way be more robust and resilient to injuries?
I think for sure. And I think, again, doing that testing phase of stuff in the gym, my knees, any jumping and landing, they weren't looking too good when I would look in the mirror.
Oh, they just collapsed.
Well, yeah, it was just wobble every time I landed, and single leg squats, my knees would just dip in. And obviously that's not good. That's not what you want. And I think for me, if I hadn't have done that stuff, I mean, ACL injuries are so common in our game, and they're such big and, sucky injuries to get, really. So I think for me to be able to, actually learn how to do things properly and how to land and jump and whatever properly, watching my progression in that, definitely now I feel so much more confident in any competitive thing that I do, because I know that I've done it properly in the process and trying to learn to, I guess, teach my body to move correctly and I guess the most safe way possible to prevent injuries. And I was in, injury prevention groups for gym all the time, even though I've never really had an injury, but I was thankful for that because I knew that it was helping me obviously prepare to not get one, hopefully.
Do you have a favorite gym exercise?
Oh, that's a tough question because I actually just love gym because
really?
Yeah, I'm usually on the music, so I'm just like dancing around and singing along with the girls, which is fun. But it's always nerve-wracking when there's other people in the gym on the music because
especially at Waste because there's so many people.
Yeah, exactly. Always the rollers are in there, and I know they're always on the bike, so they're going to listen to my whole track, and it's a bit nerve-wracking.
Those rowers, I think I've come up with a bit of an idea. They play the weirdest music, right? Have you noticed that?
They play like
it's odd and
rock and roll kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you know why?
No.
Because what they do on the rowers is that painful.
It does look sucky. Yeah.
It looks that bad that they need something just to go get them through, like mentally get out of the pain they're in.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't feel like that in gym, thankfully. I actually like it, but yeah.
So your gym exercise?
Oh, I don't know what my favorite is. I think
squatting. No. Maybe
deadlifts. Yep. We do that quite a lot. I like doing those, and I actually notice myself lifting a little bit more slowly.
Nice.
But yeah.
What do you know? Do you have like a 1 rep max, or like what's your heaviest you've lifted?
I've never done a 1 rep max, and the one time I was supposed to do one was going to be for a front squat, and I don't think I'd done a front squat for like low key the whole year. So I was like, Dave, no, I can't do a front squat of like whatever weight he'd set for me. I was like, maybe I'll just do a deadlift or something, but I don't actually know what my max rep is, but I think I'm trying to break mid-70s for continuous reps, which isn't much. That's but right. I mean, for me, I'm quite happy with that.
We're not big, so
exactly, don't need to be too big for hockey, thankfully.
So when did the news, or how did you kind of get it? Was the news broken to you that you're going to come to the national program? I can assume that obviously they knew you were so young, they were going to be like, we're picking you, come over here in a month. Like obviously there would have been a bit of a step towards finish off your school and get the ATAR and do that, and then come over?
Yeah. Well, so I debuted in year 12, so on Anzac Day, so kind of closer to the start of the year than the end. And it was in New Zealand, so a very special day for me to debut for both countries. Wow. But yeah, so I debuted then, and I got that. I found out about that via a phone call when I was at my friend's house actually, and I actually missed the call from our head coach. And then I saw that he texted me saying, hey, call me when you can. And I straight away assumed, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like done something wrong here, because it's so random to be getting a call from him, especially as an athlete not in the program. And yeah, so I called him back and he told me that I was debuting, which was so exciting. And I called my parents straight away and they were like, we already knew that, to tell us first because you're underage. And I was like, well, what?
How long before did they know about it?
Oh, I think they called them right before they called me. So not long, but it was still like, oh, what? I thought I was going to tell you. But no, it's still so exciting. And then obviously you got to hang out with them after and I guess celebrate that. But for being into the national squad, it was a bit different. That's via email, and I guess at the end of each year. Yep. And I remember, I don't know why, but I was in a shopping center, I think, and my phone was like on like 5%, and I was just like refreshing, like don't die, but hurry up and I need to get this email. And I remember getting it, and then my mum was there and I got to celebrate that with her too. And I guess cool. Then start preparing to move across the other side of the country, really.
So that was at the end of that school year. So
end of 2019.
So you already had an idea that you were going to have to come over here. You were like blissfully kind of 50, like you were like, I kind of think I am, but I don't really know yet. Type of deal.
Yeah, well, I guess
were you mentally preparing to move over?
I think I was a bit because I obviously debuted on Anzac Day and then played in the qualifying games at the end of that year, before the squad was announced. So I had played maybe 4 or 5 games for the Hockeyroos at that stage, but obviously I didn't want to.
You don't want to jinx it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I was still, counting up my options as such, planning for being here or being back home in Melbourne, and I think. Yeah, obviously I was hoping I'd be moving here, but I still had time to, I guess, post that, selection to then move and get
so how long was that? So you've got the email, how long between that until you're on the plane?
So I think we got that email, I'm going to say November-ish. And then we had to be here early Jan. So about a month and a bit.
Christmas.
Yeah, so home for
Yeah, plenty of
Christmas,
time.
which was great. Yeah, and got to, I guess,
So
plan
do I.
the move here, pack everything up, and find somewhere to live also. But yeah, no, it was enough time, and it was a good amount of time to, I guess, say bye to everyone. And
Yeah.
for me, I had a little going away like thing with my friends, which was also /18th, because I was going to be turning 18 here and wouldn't have really had people to celebrate
Wow.
it with. So,
So
that was a nice going away thing.
So
Yeah.
you were 17 when you left.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or
So
17, almost 18.
yeah, so when I was first moved here, the licensing's different in Vic and here. Unfortunately, you have to be 18 in Vic to get your license here. You
Yeah.
can be 17, but
Yeah.
I was just going to get my license here once I turned 18. So that first few, weeks or month or whatever being here, I had to get girls to drive me to training, which was always awkward to be like, hey, can you take me to training tomorrow morning? And yeah, but it was funny.
So how did you go? Did you live with someone or did you rent solo or how did that work?
Yeah, so I live with a host family.
Yeah.
I still live with them now.
Cool.
And they hosted Sophie Taylor and Laura Barden before me. So they'd hosted a lot of Victorian girls, I guess, before I came in. And I guess they have a good relationship with Hockey Australia. That they offered to take me in again, another Victorian under their wing. But cool. Yeah, so I still live with them now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
So you had to you did all that. You moved, and your first training session was Jan. Is it?
Maybe. No? Yeah, I think I'm going to say early Jan. Yeah,
mid Jan or whenever you started. How was that? Was you like, oh my god, this is amazing, or you're like, holy shit? Like,
I think a bit of both. I think, yeah, because I was lucky enough to obviously play a few games with them before moving here, so I knew most of the girls pretty well, which I think definitely helped me settle in.
Yep.
Knowing that I had a better idea of what it was going to be like, but obviously the regular training sessions I wasn't as used to here, obviously, and definitely wasn't used to living so close to the hockey centre. So that was great because I live in South Perth, so literally 5 minutes from PHS, which is great. But so yeah, it was definitely a bit of like, oh my gosh, but also like, this is so cool. Like, this is something I've wanted to do for however long now, and I'm here doing it. So yeah, definitely a positive mixed bag of emotions, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. So after that first week, we were like, this is a lot?
A little bit, but I was being managed really, really well. So I wasn't doing too much of like the preseason conditioning that they were doing. I was definitely doing a lot less than... Yeah, definitely. So even the stuff in gym, I was doing a lot of injury prevention before I started doing proper lifting stuff, a lot of technique perfection kind of stuff before, again, lifting any heavier weights. And like I said, on the field, not doing as much running and all the other things that the other girls were doing, which I was very thankful for. Again, that injury prevention aspect of it, and I guess building my body into that regular routine was definitely different. But I think the early morning get up a bit more regularly than when it was back at home. But I think, it's fine now that I'm used to it for sure.
I love it. I love here in Perth because the sun is up like almost now. It's like 5:30. I wake up in the mornings and the sun's just getting up. I'm like, this is perfect.
Yeah. It's like that as we go to training in the morning. It's like, oh, it's daytime.
Yeah, the sun's up. I should be, but when it's winter, it's like dark. Like, I don't want to be here. The sun's up. The sun's not even up. I shouldn't be up yet.
Yeah, literally, it's still nighttime. What do you mean?
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh goodness. So you had that first week. It's also interesting. What I wanted to know is, you get into a system, you came into the national program. Do they the coaches sit you down and all and say, look, you're young and all of this? Is it like an event? Like, did they say we're investing for the future with you? Or is it like, this is where we see you at this level. You can play, we're going to play you in this kind of way, in this many games to kind of get you experience. And then we'll judge your performance based off everything you do, not just the games. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, well, every athlete has a meeting with the coaching staff, I guess, throughout each block of training as such. So that happened at the start of the year. And I don't think like it wasn't more of, I guess, we're investing in you for future. It was more just like, we see that you have an opportunity here to, I guess, increase your learning, I guess, as a bit faster paced as such, being in the environment and having the opportunities to play international level hockey. And I think it wasn't really, set out in stone what they wanted from me as such, but there was definitely a lot of goal setting stuff and being really honest with, we're not going to push you too hard initially. Like, that's the plan. We want to build you into it. We don't want to, like I said, with the sessions, we don't want you doing all of it straight away. So it was definitely, I think, being smart about how they were going to look after me. And I was really thankful for that, because I know some of the girls talked about when they were younger, they just got absolutely pushed straight into it, and I guess doing all the stuff straight away. So I was thankful that I had a bit of a build up into the program. And I guess when I started, like, I guess when I was in the program, COVID hit us pretty soon after I'd started as such. I mean, we played a few internationals for Pro League in Sydney, and then COVID came, so didn't really get much else then.
So it was the start of 2020 you joined?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
So it was only a couple of months and then it was back.
Well, yeah, I think we played 4 internationals in Sydney against Argentina and maybe GB, and then COVID, and we're back here. So yeah.
Wow. So you went back home and then obviously did your own training. Did that, all the stuff you had planned before, help you kind of stay diligent on top of all the program? Because obviously I imagine you would still be highly motivated to kind of stay on top of everything. But obviously such a long time in the lockdown, especially in Victoria, there was like a second wave. Were you still there during that time?
I'm not sure if I think I just got out of Vic when the second wave came.
So anyway, the first one, still a long time. There would have been times there where you'd been like, I can't be bothered doing everything. But your professional mindset and your diligence to stay on top of everything, did that help you kind of get through that period?
Yeah, and I think also the thought that Olympics might have still been happening at that stage, because we didn't know, was also in the back of my mind and also everyone else's mind, I'm sure, in our squad, because I guess we were preparing for the Olympics in that year before we got decentralized and all went back home. So I think for me, like what I said earlier with the running sessions, when I was like, I've got to finish this session if I want to make the Olympic team kind of idea, was definitely tough sometimes. But I was also like very thankful during that time to be home, being around my family. I think, during what was the first of many lockdowns in Victoria, and my sister was doing running with me, which helped me get through it. And my parents were really supportive of, coming down to the track when I was doing the running just to cheer us on and help us get us through the sessions, because that was how they could also get out of the house within the radius of 5Ks or whatever it was.
Yep.
But I was lucky to just avoid the second lockdown, and when they were fully blocked out of WA, I only had to do a house isolation. And then the other Victorian girls returned, I think 6 days later, and had to hotel quarantine. So So
when you came back, that would have been June, July? And I think that's when I came back
I'm going to say, around then.
Yeah, right. So then you came back, you got back into the whole swing of things, back into the program. They were starting back up. Was there news on what you were training for? Because I guess they sit you down, they'd be like, all right, we're going to try, we got this competition, or you got this series coming up, this is what we're training for now. Did that happen or not?
Well, I think whilst we were still decentralized, we had lots of meetings about what's going on, because obviously it was like forever changing in the world. And I think initially when Olympics was potentially going to be cancelled or postponed, everyone was really like kind of lost for why they were doing all the running, for example, and all that other stuff, because there wasn't anything you were training for. And then obviously the next Olympics would be 6 years away or whatever it is. But I think when obviously things changed, or we heard news about anything, we as a team had online meetings straight away, kind of to be informed what was happening in the world and what was happening also within our program, so that we were, I guess, on top of it. But definitely when we came back, then we knew that it was going to be postponed. And I think a lot of us looked at it as an opportunity to be better, because we had an extra year to prepare. So I guess for us and for me, I was a little bit thankful for that time as a youngster and a newbie into the team. I could work on things a bit more and try and make a bit more of a mark in potentially getting selected. Yeah.
Did you go back to your 100 drags?
No, I don't think I did, but I went to the hockey field wasn't within our radius, so I couldn't go to the hockey field, but we went to our local cricket nets to play hockey on. And we'd just do lots of little skills things around there. So it was definitely still doing something, but not necessarily just 100 drags.
Well, if you would go back to those days, what would you do now? Could you do 200? 300?
I probably could, but I think also when I was a bit younger, I was like, oh, this is boring. Why am I doing? But definitely when I realized, like I said, it was actually helping. I was doing it more regularly, and maybe even, I can't remember, but maybe even before and after school. So I think obviously doing hockey, you do drags all the time, but I'm not sure. I probably could, but I definitely.
What would be the number? What do you think you could do, like a 3 hour window?
Oh gosh, I feel like a lot in 3 hours. I'd definitely say over 2,000, I reckon. In 3 hours.
You'd have to break it up. You wouldn't be able to do 2,000.
Oh, no,
you have
it
to
would
go like
hurt.
10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know, maybe that could be a challenge for one day.
What other little things? Do you do any other little technique? Like, because I know in hockey, you can do little Indian drags. Is that that one?
Yeah. I
There's
definitely
a little scoop and
I definitely did other things.
People who are listening, I just did a little drag and push up. Like people hearing me, I made weird ass noises.
No, but yeah, I mean, in that little space that I had, I did as much as I could, I guess. Obviously, no like hitting and pushing and stuff because there wasn't space for that. But I also did a lot of tricks as such.
That's what I was
I watched a lot of self-pass videos. They're quite a popular hockey
self-pass.
They're quite a popular hockey in like company as such in, I think I'm gonna say Europe somewhere. And they just do tricks you can't do in a game, but they're still really cool to watch. And it was a lot of stuff of like catching it on the back of your stick, doing a few little flip things, obviously stuff you can't do in a game, but in my little space I could do that within that, I guess, area. And so I did that a lot, even though I can't use it to benefit me. And I was my mum and dad was like, you can't even do that in a game. Why are you practicing? I'm like, yeah, it still looks cool. So
but it's like, like going back to soccer, like all those, you see the Ronaldos and all those guys in there, they have videos in the backyard, they're like flipping the ball, doing all this sort of stuff. They'll never do in a game. But kids are just like mucking around with the ball. It's just getting a feel of the ball, then getting able to move around and get a sense
control and everything definitely benefits from it, I think, still.
Touch,
yeah, sure.
That's awesome. So when you came back, was it like oh goodness, I'm a bit rusty?
Oh, it was weird because we were isolating. So me and Maddie Fitz were isolating in her apartment here because we both came back at the same time. And we were allowed to go and train during our isolation period. We got like regulation from the police here to go and do that. And so it was just us two at the sessions. And it was really weird because, weird, but, positive in the sense that she's a defender. So for me, practicing my one-on-one stuff was perfect because she's good at tackling. That's her thing. And for her, I was a person who dribbled the ball and that was my thing. So
you're a midfielder, right?
Yeah. So it was a pretty good matchup, I think, for us at that stage. But I think that definitely those 2 weeks in isolation allowed me to get through the rustiness.
Yeah. So, but when we all came back and you had to get back into the swing of things, when did the news that because the next tournament or the series was against New Zealand, but that wasn't until March 2021.
Yeah.
When did you find out?
About that game.
Yeah, about that little money we went over to New Zealand for.
Yeah.
It was late February, I think it was.
Yeah. We didn't really know if we could do it or not for a long period of time. I'm sure behind the scenes it would have been talked about for a very long time, trying to prepare that, because knowing the Olympics is coming, you want games to play, like you want to play against international teams pre-Olympics. That's just the most ideal thing. And especially for countries in Europe who were playing Pro League the whole time, playing against each other the entire time, we were at a little bit of a, I guess, step back behind that. We were a bit behind in the sense that we couldn't play those games. But when we found out about that, I can't remember exactly when it was, but we were pretty thankful that we had that opportunity because obviously here in Australia and in New Zealand, they were doing really well with the numbers and trying to get them down. And it's just a bit stricter in WA, but other than that, it was really well organized so that we could have them.
Before that kind of got announced, was there, because obviously it was a long time when you came back in June, July, and when it got announced, was there a period in there where it was like, this is like, we're training for nothing, this is getting hard, or were you like, oh, I'm still having fun?
I was still having fun, and we were playing quite regular games against under 18 WA boys, which was always quite fun because my host family, one of their sons is in that age group.
Way.
So we played against him sometimes, which was always fun to match up. But no, we did have games as much as they could in that sense. And then here in WA, they had the North versus South games, I think, happening. So we also got to play in that. So there was still, I guess, games happening, which kept it exciting rather than just training. We got to still play a bit, which was good.
Then I guess the level of competition, like if you want to go play against, it's like getting a feel against like an actual, like a New Zealand national team versus, the under 18 boys, obviously there's a gap, and actually going out to a game that means something, there's a bit more pressure and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for us, those New Zealand games were definitely beneficial. And I think we were thankful for that because people could watch us play also. Like no one had watched us play since 2019. And for us to be able to get out there and, showcase a little bit of what we'd been working on for that however many months was pretty awesome to get that opportunity. And then our family could come and watch. Some people's family came over and watched, and my family couldn't because Vic was still not doing well. But I think some of the Queensland girls had family come and watch in New Zealand. And I think that was really nice for us as a program to have that opportunity, especially because everyone was still playing in Europe.
Did it feel good to get out of Perth to go to New Zealand and just be like,
yeah, but it was cold. It was freezing cold. We're trying to prepare for a hot Olympics and it was so cold. I was wearing long sleeves every game.
Before that you went on was it before you went on a camp to Darwin?
I think it was, I think it was before that, and that was all about heat acclimation strategies. So it was very contrasting to then go to New Zealand.
How did you go there? Because obviously you're quite a fair complexion. How did you go up in Darwin?
Well, I put on lots of sunscreen. I have a full routine.
A routine?
Pretty much, yeah.
What is it?
So an hour before I take the field, I put on like just normal sunscreen, like Coles, whatever sunscreen. Everywhere pretty much that's going to be
exposed to
shown. And then on my face I put on zinc layer on my whole face, like I don't know what it's called, but it's just like it rubs in, so it's not just a color. So it actually rubs in a bit, but it still makes me look a little bit ghostly. But yeah, so zinc layer, and then I always wear a hat all the time. Yep. So my visor was so gross because I'd worn it literally every single session for the whole year also. So luckily I got a second.
You get the little salt, like the rim the white line.
Yeah, but I washed it regularly, so that was good. But no, yes, I do have a routine for the sunscreen, and
you'd have to have multiple visors, not just one.
I do now, thankfully, because that one was getting quite gross. The Velcro was starting to not work very well.
Oh God, that's when you've worn through it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've done all that in the hydration as well. Did that, like, how much of that have you had exposure to before? Was that all new? Going up to Darwin camp?
Yeah, I guess the learnings out of that I really hadn't known much about, and being a fair-skinned person and not very good in the heat, it was actually really beneficial to learn that stuff. And a lot of the studies or things that they did there, we had to take this little pill thing that would tell them our core temperature when you held this thing next to it, which was pretty, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you just swallow it.
And which was pretty cool to see how, hot your body was inside. And then knowing that, and I guess seeing how much we lost weight in sweat during the games and seeing what helped keep us cool. So we tried a lot of methods, whether that was, wet towels, slushies, ice bars, everything like that, to try and work out what worked most effectively. So then when we were in Tokyo, we knew what we wanted to do to stay cool.
So what was your biggest fluid loss in a training or a game in that time?
I'm not sure about in Darwin, but in Tokyo, I was losing about 2 liters of sweat.
Jeez.
So a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's 2 kilos.
Yeah.
We had, I think there was, in late March, we had trial games at the footy club, and one game we played, I think it was like late March, and it was, late March. And it was one of those weeks, it was like 41 degrees or whatever. And then the doc's like, we're going to, I think the game got pushed an hour later, so we played at 3:00 and finished it and whatever. But we had one guy who's obviously guys bigger, more muscle mass, so they have more fluid gets held in the muscle, so they lose a lot more. He lost 8 kilos.
Jeez.
And he was 98 kilos to start with, and got to, I think it was 7 kilos, 7.6, something like that. And I think he stood on it and he was like, whoa.
I'd probably faint if I lost that much.
But it's like, but they were like, we're making sure they rehydrate, had extra longer breaks and that sort of stuff. But even I stood down, I was like, whoa.
That's impressive.
And even sometimes now I do my own training. Sometimes I might do a double session, and then adding just electrolytes in the middle of the 2 sessions makes a world of difference. And sometimes it's a bit of like you don't really know until you've experienced it.
Yeah, for sure.
To know this actually makes a difference, and being dehydrated, or even if you might not think you are, but actually having a bit of electrolytes just helps the brain kind of focus and just replenishes what you've lost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
magnesium, sodium. You got to learn all of those, how that makes a difference.
Yeah, and I was generally waking up quite dehydrated most mornings, which wasn't good, obviously, ahead of the day. So yes, I was always get the what we can use shots, the Coda shots. Chuck a couple of them in my water bottle.
Did you
finish
cramp?
it.
Did you cramp at all?
I'm actually not
cramper?
much of a cramper, no, but I have to. A part of our, I guess, what we learned was if you were at a certain level on our USG, you have to have 2. I was generally in the worst section, which wasn't good. I did try really hard, but
What's USG?
It's quite gross, but you have to pee in a cup every morning and they test it, and whatever number you get is your USG. I don't know what it stands for. Yeah, pretty much. And if you were above 20 on the USG, it was not good. So, and I was generally in the 20s.
Yeah.
And so that meant I had to have 2 of the Coda shots in my, 600 ml bottle before breakfast, and then have breakfast, and then have another bottle before training with the Coda shots in it. And then I should have been at a better hydration level. But I don't know what's wrong with me. I think my body just doesn't hold hydration because because literally one time throughout the year, even I think when I first joined the program, we were seeing what was wrong with my hydration. And I drank 6 liters of water, I think in 6 hours, so a liter every hour or something, between a morning session and a gym session. And I just remember going to gym and needing to pee every
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I need to pee so often. And I was like, this is supposed to stay in me, otherwise I don't get hydrated. But I don't know. Still trialing what works, I guess.
I have the same issue as well. So I train Muay Thai like late evenings.
Mm-hmm.
So usually after I finish work, I go do my weights, then I'll come home, eat, and then 2 hours later I go train at 6:45. And then I've recently been doing, like, I won't eat after that. I'll just have like a protein shake. That's what, 600 mils of water, fluid. I usually have milk with it. And then I'll have my electrolytes, about a liter of electrolytes. So then I'm like, so I know I've ticked off hydration. I've done my electrolytes. I've had my protein. And usually if I did eat after, it'd be too heavy in my stomach and it would affect my sleep. So now that I know if I've eaten lighter, I've had fluids, I'm hydrated, I can sleep better. But I'm sacrificing the amount of time in bed because I get up twice in the night to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I was paying like,
it's a tough balance. It is.
Oh, because you come home, it's like 8:30. I'm like, it used to be a pain in the ass to cook dinner, and then by the time 8 it was 9 o'clock, and now I'm in bed by 9:30. And there's too late in between that all sleeping and eating and digesting while you sleep. Was the nutrition a big new experience or a new kind of thing that you had to get used to when you moved over?
A little bit. I'd never done a skin folds test before. So for me, when I did my first one, they were very emphasizing this fact that it doesn't matter what number you get, kind of thing. Like, it is what it is as such. And my number, I can't remember what it was, but I just remember not knowing if it was good or bad, to be honest. I didn't know, but I think for me personally, I like to think of whatever my number is or however much I weigh or whatever, if I'm still performing out on the field, it's not that much of an issue. So, I mean, I know there must be girls with lower skin folds, but for us in the program, they try not to worry about that too much, because I know in the past it's been pretty bad mentally for some of the girls having to think about that all the time. So I think it's definitely more about eating healthy and eating something that's going to fuel you enough to be able to go out and perform each day.
Because you have never, I guess you moved over here, this is the most training you've ever had to do in a week. Did that kind of sit you down and be like, you're going to have to eat a lot more than you used to eat? And did you have to I have to cook for myself now?
Well, I was always a big eater, so I don't think that was too much of an issue. But my host family are vegetarians and I love meat. So that was a little bit of a, I guess, transitional phase for me because I generally ate with them. Sometimes I would cook my meat on the side and have it with whatever they made. But I guess initially when I first moved over, I was eating a lot more with them than doing my own thing. So my iron levels dropped a little bit. And I remember them being like, you need to have your beans and all those things a little bit more often. So I definitely became more aware of that moving into a vegetarian household, I think, than I would have previously. But I think I'd always eaten a lot. So I don't think they necessarily said I had to eat more. But I was already, I think, eating more than a lot of the other girls already in the program because I just love food.
What's your favorite food, like your meal? What's your not go to, but what's your favorite?
My favorite is when Mum makes lamb chops and Yorkshire pudding. Not the most healthy thing.
That's English, very English.
But I just love it. She makes it so well. So that's my favorite. And usually when I go home, that's the first meal when I get home because it's like, welcome home. Here's your favorite food, which is great.
So if you want to cook something yourself, what's your something that's simple, easy, and good after a training, or recovery type of meal?
Well, one thing I've been making quite a lot, because usually if I make dinner, I make it for the whole household, I guess. And that's generally quite a lot because I have 4 kids. So a lot of food being made in the house. But I recently been making zucchini and carrot fritters with lentils in it, which you can have in a burger. I make it like a burger.
Okay.
It's actually good. It sounds gross, but it's actually good. And then obviously you just have your veggies. I mean, your like lettuce and cucumber and tomato, whatever, and you have it in a burger. And then I sometimes roast some potatoes on the sides I have with it.
The roast potato sounds actually right.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but it's actually good.
You can see my face, my facial reactions.
And if you don't like it, just chuck in a lot of tomato sauce.
Yeah, I was about to say, put sauce on that as well.
Yeah, yes.
A bit of grated cheese, I guess.
Yes, for sure. Classic burger things.
What about eggs? Eggs in a burger?
Oh,
Only egg in a burger?
Yeah, I would do that. But some of my host family don't like eggs, so I just do it for myself. Yeah.
I say this all the time on the podcast, so I'm sorry for everyone who has to listen to it again. But organ meats, have you ever tried any organ meats? Like liver?
Oh, I think I've accidentally tried it, not intentionally.
Accidentally? How do you accidentally try it?
Well,
Did someone trick you?
No, but once I went on a tour to South Africa and we were eating somewhere really close to the slums, and I didn't know what the meat was that I was eating, and I actually think it might have been worse than liver. I think it was like cow intestine or something.
No, kidneys or something like that.
I don't know, but yeah, it was something.
Because there's one of the trainers at the club, and I can't remember what his nationality was. I think he's Vietnamese, and he said that when he has his, or I was talking to him about the beef kidneys and that, and I said, "Oh, it's disgusting."
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, you got to like drown it in sauce and do all this." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not that healthy."
Yeah.
And anyway, so your beef kidney, don't try that because that's bad.
Okay.
I've beef heart is actually really good. I've actually had a couple of solid weeks of just putting it in the slow cooker and.
Oh, slow cooker makes everything good though.
Yes, because you don't want to ever slice up heart and cook it on a barbecue because it just tastes like a liver.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've been doing beef liver. Had a beef liver today.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. It's a bit of a weird taste because it's full of iron. Yeah. So actually tastes very metallic-y.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're talking about the iron, that's why I brought it up. So
maybe
you don't have to have a lot. Like I just buy like a packet and it comes like already diced, but it comes up in small little, probably like that big. And then it cooks down to like that much.
Bite size.
Yeah. Like two or three bites, but you only cook it for like 30 seconds each side because once it's the same thing. You don't want to overcook it too much because it gets like a weird texture because it's not meat.
Yeah.
It's not like a tissue.
Yeah.
It's an organ, so it's a weird texture to it as well. Like, but the beef heart actually tastes like meat.
Yeah.
So you don't actually recognize it.
Huh.
So I usually have that with my eggs and.
Maybe I'll have to do that. I couldn't imagine what my vegetarian household would think though if I could.
Yeah, no, I actually had a vegetarian come house sit the other week here. And I was like, just don't go in the freezer. It's like big cow heart, like just big in the freezer. Yeah. And even my girlfriend, I picked when I first got them, and she came home, and goes, "That is disgusting." Because it's just exactly what a heart looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Oh. If you were to have dinner with any 4 people, who would you pick?
I know I've heard this. I've been asked this question before.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but
it's one of my regular questions to ask everyone.
I have been asked it, and as much as I'd love to say, like, you know, so many famous, cool people, I honestly would just say my family because I don't see them that often now and don't get to sit down and have a meal with them very often. So, yeah, probably my mum, dad, and sister, and don't know who the extra one would be.
But, you have to pick one. Come on.
Luciana Amar. I've had to pick a hockey person.
Yeah.
Like she's just a legend. She won like 7 World Player of the Year. No, she's from Argentina, so I probably wouldn't actually be able to talk to her because can't speak Spanish. But yeah.
So going. So obviously Europe is really big in the hockey. Is that something on your radar at all in the future, or are you just focusing on the now?
Well, I definitely would want to because I know, it's such a great league over there, and I know many international players go and play there. And it just seems like such a great opportunity. I mean, it seems like, you know, you get to see a different lifestyle, and I know in like countries like the Netherlands, you just ride everywhere, you know, to get to your game, cool. You just ride your bike or whatever. And I think that would just be so cool to, I guess, live amongst and try it out and see what it's like in another country. But I think that's something for, I mean, a lot of girls wanted to do it post-Olympics this year, but they weren't able to do that. So I think it's definitely a post-Olympic thing. So maybe after Paris be something I'd look to, but I also know it's a good opportunity post-games to do some more uni. So not sure. Yes. We'll see how I'm going with uni at that stage. Yeah. Yes.
So, you know, had the Darwin trip, and then you went to New Zealand, come back, and then you had the Tri-Nations tournament, the same thing, but here they had New Zealand, you played them here. And then you went to the Olympics.
Yeah, well,
the squad got announced.
The squad got announced and New Zealand got stuck here, actually.
Yes, for an extra couple of days.
So they weren't very happy with that for their Olympic prep. But no, so then the squad got announced pre those New Zealand games, the team got picked for Olympics, and then post those games, the reserves and traveling reserves were announced.
So talk me through your reaction to getting selected.
So I actually treated myself a little bit for that period of time. I was staying out of my host family house, just, I don't know, at an Airbnb or something. And I think I chose to do that because I wanted to be with who I wanted to be around, not necessarily feel the pressure to be like, I'm reading the email and then my whole host family wants to see it kind of thing. Okay. So pretty much me and my best friend went to this Airbnb because I wanted to have someone there just in case it wasn't a positive email to open. But yeah, I pretty much sent her out of the room though when I opened it. And called my family on FaceTime, and my sister actually was like in English class or something when I called them. And so I think mum and dad were like, you need to come to the car. We're waiting outside. You need to come and join the phone call. So Josie ran out of class to join in to the phone call to, I guess, open the email with me. So yeah, I opened the email and I think I just was like, had my mouth open in shock. And I think straight away they knew that was a positive thing. And yeah, then I guess celebrated as much as I could over a FaceTime with them. And then I told my best friend, so then it was great. And then I guess we celebrated together a little bit.
Did you? I'd probably go the same answer as what we said before. Did you kind of have an inkling that you were in a good chance to get selected, or you were like, oh, don't want to jinx it?
I definitely didn't want to jinx it, and it was actually quite stressful and weird because we actually had training that morning before the selection came out.
Yuck.
So at that training session, obviously the tension was just high because no matter pretty much what you did at that session, how good or bad, it was probably already decided. So, we're all just there like, this is awkward. And before we all left, I guess we all had a bit of a staff were like, it's happening today and we want you to, be there for each other and I guess get around each other and whatever the circumstance is, because we're still a squad. And I think for us as a program, we instilled since when Trini came on board, it was very much instilled the fact that we are a squad of 27 and the 16 that go are representing that squad and, their families and themselves and the rest of Australia. So I think we were trying to, for me personally, I kind of, again, prepared for both scenarios and had, decided that even if I didn't make the team, I wanted to still be there for my teammates and help prepare them their best they could be to go away and do well for us, I guess, as a program and represent us well as a team. And I guess in the lead up in New Zealand, we had a lot of, team meetings and line meetings and all that stuff. And it was always really, really weird in the sense that I'd sit in my line meeting, there's 4 of us. And in the AMs, 3 would be selected.
Oh, wow.
And it was always like, oh, these are all such good friends of mine and one won't go or one won't make the team if, mathematically that's how they do it.
Yeah.
But I guess, for us, I think we'd planned, to be the best squad we could be no matter the situation. And definitely I prepared for both sides. But I don't know. I think before I opened it, when I opened it, it was almost a bit of a relief feeling, which I was like then confused about. I was like, shouldn't I be so excited? Which I also then was after I, chatted to my family and whatnot. But I also think because the build up was so intense and you're always thinking about that selection in New Zealand in those games, we knew that was that was where you had to be performing. And I was like, I don't know if I've done well, I don't think I played the first game. So then I was straight away like, oh my gosh, this is not a good start. So I think definitely mentally weighing up both sides, but I think I would like to say I was a little bit quietly confident in myself and what I'd put forward. And
so should be.
And I just also knew that I'd done everything I could in a sense to try and make myself on that list. Yeah. That's
awesome. I don't know. It's crazy because I sit with people like, people have been to the Olympics before and also stuff. And I'm sitting here, it's like, oh, it's plain old me. Now, how would I react to something like that? But I couldn't imagine the fear like that having to wait to know if you're going to the Olympics. Because obviously it's something that you've been building up for training and your training builds up and, it's time. And then you just got to wait. Like it's a minute to go like before, you think back and it's like weeks, you got weeks to prepare and all this sort of stuff. And then you got an email, like it's 1 minute, 30 seconds to go. And when the email's coming, you get those, I can imagine like the butterflies eat you up inside. And
so stressful. Yeah. And like we obviously individual sports usually know they're going almost a year out of the game. So for us, it's pretty much a selection the entire lead up. And
it's, I think the hockey was one of the last teams to,
maybe second last behind rugby.
Yeah, I think would have, because it wasn't long. What was the time between selection and going?
Well, the selection came out, and then I think we were playing.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was thinking about another thing. So when they announced it, and he did all the press, like he did all the photos, that wasn't too long after they all left.
I think it was honestly like a month between that and then being in Darwin in the pre-camp before going to Tokyo. But yeah, like I was saying, like we also had a discussion how we wanted to find out, I think, because in previous years, sometimes they do a phone call, sometimes they do an email. But we'd, I guess, as a team, discussed both sides. And I think most people decided that they wanted the email, and I was thankful personally that it was the email, because then everyone knows at 11 o'clock or whatever time they send it, rather than the phone call when it's like over 3 hours, you'll get a call. And it's like you're sitting there for 3 hours waiting. That window
is too much of a window, isn't it?
And then you're also like, if someone else has got a call and they text you, oh, have you got your call? You're like, does that mean I'm not in it? Or I don't know, I just feel like the stress level is just a lot higher than at 11 you're getting an email kind of thing.
I feel like, a phone call would be nice because you get a bit of a personal kind of, even if it's like bad news, it's still at least you get to hear it in person rather than an email.
Yeah, well, that's what some girls, I think, said, like voiced that, but then you don't get to hear it. But also like if you didn't make it and it was via phone call, I think it was literally going to be like, hi, you didn't make the team.
That's it.
Bye.
Yeah. Well, that's, because you got to make, because it's hard for the coach as well to say no. So you don't want to sit there and be like, have a conversation about
I mean, their stress level is probably just as high in that whole lead up, having to pick people and not pick people.
There's always the worst stories of footy, like the selection for team selection, and the coach goes up and goes, "This is not a conversation. I'm telling you, you're not playing this week." And this walk off.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't imagine. But also, like, I don't know. I feel like personally, when I opened that email, when I said I felt a bit of relief, I also straight away felt so bad for all the girls that weren't on that list, because I know they would have been the same as me, in the sense that they felt like they put everything out there, to try and be on that list. Yeah. So yeah, it was very weird.
So how do you manage like feelings? Because obviously you got a team of 27, squad of 27, sorry, and then you got to goes down to 16, but you're all so close because you're all together so much. Was it a bit of like a sorry mate, or do you kind of go about, you still smile and say we love you and all that,
Yeah, well, we as a team also squad had decided for 30 minutes, I think, post the email coming out, that we won't text anybody in the team.
Nice.
To allow for, grieving for grieving, or, if emotions. I wanted to call my family in that period, then I could. Like it was a time for people to, I guess, allow whatever they felt to sink in, or whatever, however they wanted to deal with it. That was the time. And I was actually really thankful for that, because it also made me have a bit of time to think about who I wanted to text kind of when we could, or when we were, out of that little blackout period, and how I wanted to message them, whether it was a congratulations or whether that was a I'm so sorry kind of message. And obviously that's really hard, to send to someone. And then the fact that we had to go to training as a whole squad was very tough for those girls, I'm sure. But I was very thankful for them to be there, because like I said, without them, we wouldn't have been where we were at, because you can't just train as a 16, because then we could play games against them and with them and things like that. So for our lead up, and considering we couldn't play internationals, is very important that we had that squad mindset rather than the 16 only.
It's very important. Yeah. So obviously this Olympics was so different to any other one that there's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get given like a booklet of like things you had to like follow, or like was there a No, they just told you and you had to take notes?
Well, pretty much in the pre-camp in Darwin, that was when we kind of discussed everything. And if you had questions, ask the girls who've been to an Olympics before. But like you said, it was so different, and a lot of people didn't really know what to expect. The one thing we did know was that it was going to be a long time in the airport trying to do the processing stuff, which ended up being about 5 to 6 hours before we got, yeah.
So what, in the airport in Darwin to go to Tokyo? Oh, you were in Tokyo.
Yeah. So we flew from Darwin to Cairns, where we got our charter flight with a few other sports. And then, in Tokyo, the processing took about 5 to 6 hours because of COVID and the procedures they had to follow. So that was a very long.
Airports stress me out. And it's I only get there like 30 minutes before I go. Imagine being there for 5 hours.
Yeah, it's because you have
all the paperwork.
All the paperwork, prove you'd been vaccinated, prove, you're a member of the team, get your pass. Get your COVID. We had to do a COVID test just to spit into a jar one, so they could test it there, and you weren't allowed to leave till you got your test back.
Oh yes, that's why it was so long. That would have been
we were sitting around waiting for those for a long period of time, and then obviously with the amount of athletes on our flight, they had to buses were looping around trying to pick us up. So then it was trying to load everyone on and on the way to the village. So it was a bit of a process, but
So you get to the village. Was there people out there telling you where to go? And obviously you're staying in this building, in this room.
Well, we got there at like some silly time in the morning. Like it was not I guess not busy in the village at that time. Most people were asleep. But definitely the volunteers, like who were there doing everything really for us, looked like they'd been awake and busy for so long, but they were still going at it really, really well. And I mean, when we got to the village, like they helped us with packing our bags into the little van thing that then took it to our apartment building as such. And then we got dropped off at the Oz building. And I mean, you can tell it's the Oz building because it had Oz plastered all over it. And then pretty much, they like welcomed us. The I guess Oz, the AOC, I can't remember exactly what they were called, but they had like 6 or 7 people that if you had anything you needed to know or wanted to know something, those are the people you go to. They helped with all the uniform and all the organisation stuff within the Oz building. And I guess they were the people on ground keeping it all together as such. And I guess they were the ones who were like, yep, here's your key to your room. You're on this level. Go here, go there.
So that was pretty cruisy.
Yeah, like pretty much once we got in, it was all steam ahead and go in. But then it was so annoying because the next morning I got woken up for drug testing.
Just like, you?
Me and 2 others, I think. But my roommate, actually, Rachel Lynch, was the one who heard the person knocking at the door. So I'm fast asleep. And Lynchy's like, Lotto, they're here to test you. And I was like, what?
Did they come and test the whole team, or was it just that
just like
room?
3 or 4 of us, not even just from my room, me just from my room, and then 2 others from another room. And then the next day they got one from the other room. It was very random. And I was just like, I've been asleep for like 4 hours. Come on. But no, I mean, then we didn't have to do another test the whole time. So that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, but you only had 3 hours sleep. That's a bit rude.
But I didn't have to play the next day, thankfully.
Yes. So well, imagine having to play the next day. That would be not very nice, is it?
Yeah, I know.
Lucky. So is it you had the room, the Hockeyroo's, did you have like a floor to yourself, or was it you were spread out like at multiple levels in the building?
All of us were on the same floor, but unfortunately Greta Hayes and Maddie Fitzpatrick were on a different level because they were the 17th and 18th, and that was just because of COVID. We got the extra 2, which was actually really great, and they roomed with 2 reserves for the rowing team. So they actually made really great friends with them. That's and cool. We made sure that we were in contact with them when we were going to get food or whatnot, because you obviously couldn't just go and knock on their door because they were on like 3 or 4 levels above us, and none of us were going to do the stairs. But yeah, no, I mean, we were all on the same level, and there was, within the 16, we were in 3 rooms, and in my room I had a very experienced room, and I was really grateful for that. My I guess in the same room, my roommate was Rachel Lynch, like I said, and then in the rest of my entire room, I had Brooke Paris, Emily Chalker, Kate Jenner. So yeah, very experienced. That's very experienced. Yeah, and it was great to have them there.
The total number of caps in that, have you calculated how many caps in that room?
I haven't calculated, but I'm definitely very far behind those guys.
Yeah, but total?
Not sure. Definitely.
That's a lot of experience.
I'd say close to 500, do you reckon? They've all got at least 100 and a bit. I'm not sure.
Do they help and support you in terms of like the nerves, I guess? Like this is, you expect to feel like this when you go out into the field for the first time, all that sort of stuff? Or they kind of left you and you kind of ask questions when you wanted to?
Well, I definitely asked questions. I mean, like stuff with the uniform straight away. I was like, oh my gosh, what about this? What about that? All this kind of stuff, which was very exciting, obviously opening all the uniform for the first time. But like Lynchy was obviously so experienced in all her time in the program and have been to Olympics before. She's like, make sure you label everything because in the washing it might get lost. I was like, oh yeah, good idea. And I mean, the stuff I wouldn't have thought of, like trying to make our little apartment as homely as possible, was something I wouldn't have really thought about. But I mean, our group was my roommates were so organized in that they had an Aussie flag. Chucky brought an Indigenous flag. We stuck them up on our walls. Like we had photos that we stuck up on a wall. Lynchy brought her, what is the Polaroid, so that we take some photos together in a room and stick it up on the wall. And I think that little aspect was quite nice to have them there to be like, oh, let's actually make it like as much as home and as normal as possible, which I think in an Olympics is what you want. You don't want to be worrying about other things. And even funny things like my bed was right underneath like the air conditioner and it just started dripping on me in the middle, like just before I went to bed. I was like, Lynchy, it's dripping on me. And she helped me like tape it up or something to stop it dripping on me so I could sleep. But
what would you have done if she wasn't there? Just let it.
No, I probably would have tried, but I think she was the one who I think we used the plastic from the wrapping of some of our uniform.
Yeah, okay.
And I probably wouldn't have thought of that. I don't know. She's just great, Lynchy. And I mean, during that period, she also won an awesome award, the Olympians for Life, which that's one of 5 people, I think, get every Olympic cycle. And it was quite cool when she got awarded that. First of all, I was like, yeah, she's my roommate. Like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And also she was in like her Zoom, I guess, announcement for it. And pretty much the entire team were down in our room, like watching it on the computer while she was in the other room on the call.
Oh, yeah.
And it was quite funny because when they like announced her officially or whatever, we were all like cheering so loud and they could hear it through on the live. And then she's like, oh, sorry, that's my teammates cheering me. They're just in the other room. So it was quite funny. Yeah.
So you got how many days before for your first game?
I think about a week.
Oh, that's right. So plenty of time to kind of get used to the heat. Like we said, obviously it's very different from Darwin to Tokyo.
Yeah. And in the, I guess, heat study they did the first time we went to Darwin, I guess the findings of it said that we had to be in heat for, I think it was 14 sessions to properly acclimatize. And the time in Tokyo was ticking off those last few sessions to be acclimatized. But yes, it was still a very different heat. Like Darwin's hot, but not as humid as it is in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, you can't really replicate the 30 plus degrees and the 60 plus humidity percentage. So, I mean, those times we were training in, I guess, trying to train in the same times we were going to be playing at to try and replicate it pretty much as perfect as possible. And for the middle of the day games, we had a middle of the day session. We had a 9 p.m. training session. So all of it was very well thought out preparation to try and make sure that we were ready for every single game.
Did you train 7 days? The 7 days you trained every day leading into it, or do you have 5 training sessions?
No, we didn't train every day. I think we maybe only did 4 because I don't think we trained on that first day, obviously just off the plane and pretty early in the morning off the plane.
Okay.
And then I think we had one session in the Aussie gym, which was just like some mobility stuff, light movement and whatever. So not too much and not too strenuous. Obviously, just like getting good feel for both pitches that we were going to be playing on, and different stuff in the heat, and some, I guess, clearing up and finalizing of penalty corner things, and so not too tough sessions, but still out in the heat. So getting ready, I guess. Yeah.
Was there much relief in the night games?
Not really, because it actually got more humid when it was not sunny.
Yes.
So it was like a different type of heat. But again, the middle of the day still wasn't nice. Yeah.
It's also because when you've got the water on the pitch as well, you got the water evaporating off of that, and you got like another kind of like a humidity coming off the pitch, which is not very nice.
Yeah, and I guess like there was no one in the crowd, so all the sun bounced straight into all of us. I don't know if that makes any impact, but obviously there's no shade in the stadium really unless you're inside the dugout, and in our dugout we always had a fan on blowing little mist at us.
Oh, I saw that.
Usually as soon as people came off, there's like 5 girls parked right in front of the little fan trying to get in the cool, I guess, as much as possible before they went back out there into the sun again.
Yeah. So what was your feeling of the first game? Like, was it like, how nervous were you?
I actually wasn't as nervous as I thought I was going to be, because I felt as a team we prepared really, really well. And I felt really confident in us as a group. But for me, I guess personally, one thing that I always think about when I'm really nervous for games is make sure my first touch or my first involvement is good, because then it sets me up for the rest of the game. And thankfully, I think my first touch of the game was fine. And I think the fact that there weren't crowds maybe played a role in the fact that I was a bit more comfortable than if it was full crowds, purely because first of all, the stadium was massive. So if it was full, it would have been so cool, but also crazy. And I don't know, I feel like there would have been a bit more feeling and emotion surrounding that. But again, like I said, our preparation, we'd prepared with no crowds. So we were used to that. And it honestly like felt like another game of hockey. Obviously, it wasn't just another game of hockey, but I think I was just so excited to be running out there for my first game. And I didn't start on. So I think that also maybe got to watch the girls settle in, and then I went out there and settled in myself. So yeah, but I was also just like so stoked to be there. I was like, this is so cool. First Olympics. Fun, yeah.
So yeah, the first game was that against
Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out the day after that their coach had got COVID.
Oh, really?
The day before we played them. And we got told after the game. We were all like, what?
But obviously, no.
None
was he the only one who had it? Like, didn't none?
Yeah, none of the athletes were close contacts and all tested negative. So thankfully,
but even from his team, like no other coaches.
Apparently not.
That's weird.
But also, like, we didn't get told about cases much. I mean, we didn't know about any of the cases in the village other than that one, really. And then when we came out, I remember someone showing me like some, I don't know, table of the numbers, and there was like 500 or something. I was like, oh, didn't know that. But you know, you don't want to worry about other things like that when you're trying to perform, I guess.
Now, you played for 5 pool games?
Yeah, 5, I think, yeah.
Each one, do you kind of build more and more confidence after each win? Or was it just ticking them off, like this is it?
Well, I think as a whole team, group, definitely the confidence was building. You know, leading into the quarterfinals, I think the girls... I think the stat is, I believe that there's never been that many wins in a lead up to quarterfinals for the Hockeyroo. They never won all their games in that, I guess, first round period. So for us, we were so stoked with that, a little achievement before we even headed into the, I guess, crunch games. But yeah, definitely the confidence was building as a group, and you could see it amongst the group. I think out on the field also, like, I mean, we were executing things we wanted to execute. So yeah, for sure, definitely was building.
But then the quarterfinal game.
Yes.
Disappointing, I'm sure. Was it just a deer in the headlights type of thing? Was it you cracked under the pressure a little bit, or was it just a bad day at the office?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think I would say we were surprised or we weren't ready for it or any of that. I think we were, and we'd prepared well and obviously had a great lead up to that game. And it was really weird because when India scored, I think it wasn't, you know, too late in the game. It was maybe towards the middle of the game. I didn't feel stressed. I don't think many of the other girls felt like, oh my gosh, we're losing and it's a game we have to win, because I don't know, I had so much confidence that we'd come back from that. And in our lead up games, even against New Zealand before we went away, we'd come back from things like that. And I think the fact that it didn't come and it didn't come and it didn't come was more like, why isn't it happening? What's going wrong? I feel like we're implementing everything. We've practiced everything we've, you know, been asked to do. We're doing it. It's just not here in the back of the net. So I think that's what it felt like a little bit, watching and being, I guess, when I was off watching it happen. And I was off for that last, I think, 2 minutes, when obviously that's like everyone's starting to panic a little bit at that stage. And I just remember watching like, come on, guys, what is happening? Like, we've worked so hard. This can't be the end for us. It just can't be, because we'd done so well. And especially for us with, I guess, the year we'd had, it wasn't the best preparation in the sense of COVID and getting a new head coach and all that stuff. For us, this was going to be the cherry on top, you know, doing well in the Olympics. And we had done well up until that stage. And I think, I don't know, when that final whistle went, and I don't know, everyone just went into tears. It was such a weird feeling, and obviously so sad. I went straight into tears also, because I had felt so strongly connected to this group of girls, more than probably ever in the program. And I know I'm still a newbie, but I think, I guess, what we'd been through and how strong we'd come as a group, and also in the 27, was something that I was like, we needed to do better for everyone in this sense. And I think we felt like we were going to be better. And I don't know, it was a really, really weird feeling, considering we just, you know, missed out on a place in the Olympic finals. But I think after we all went back into the change room, and I guess we're really amongst the emotions as such, it was still a feeling of connectedness, and something I, sitting there obviously still in tears, but looking around that change room, I was like, this is such a good feeling for the future amongst this group, in the sense that all of the staff, all of the players were, I guess, emotionally involved with this feeling of the loss. All were quite sad. I mean, all of our male staff were crying and upset, and all of our female staff were crying and upset, and all the players were crying and upset. And I think the fact that everyone felt so strongly connected to the group and our result and our performance showed something. And I don't know, within me, I felt like this is, as much as right now sucks, yes, it's something that I'm like, well, look how much all of us want this, and how much the staff want to help us get this, and how much we as players want this for ourselves and each other, was something that I was like, yes, this is obviously so disappointing, but gives me a lot of, I guess, confidence and excitement about what is to come for us as a group, I think. So yeah, it was a very much mixed emotions on that last few minutes and end of game for sure.
Because even looking back at it, you had 5 wins in a row, and I guess, as you know, flip a coin, like you're gonna have to lose one.
Yeah.
Eventually. And it's so hard with tournament games. Like you lose one, you have one off game. Or one, you have one game that one ball didn't go to the back of the net, and that was just unlucky. The game that meant the one you had to win.
Yeah.
You know?
And like looking at the stat, like, yes, we won 5 of 6 games and conceded 2 goals the entire tournament. Like,
and you could have teams that teams obviously could lose pool matches and still, get through to the finals.
And I think India did lose pool matches, and then they just the one they had to win against us, they did. So
they could have just had they could have played out of their skins, and they could have just had a bad day in the office.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really unfortunate how that happens, but I guess that's just the way it is for us. And we all knew that. I mean, heading into that game, it wasn't like we knew we had a second chance. We knew that was the one opportunity, and it just didn't go our way that day.
Did you feel there was a difference between the pool games and that quarterfinal game? I guess there'd be a feeling.
Yeah, I think there definitely was a feeling.
Pressure,
I mean, because we knew it wasn't. Well, we knew it was a do or die game, essentially. Like we knew that the points really didn't matter anymore, and trying to do the best we could was still a thing, but it meant more. And I guess in the lead up, people were maybe potentially a bit more nervous, but our preparation was still the same. Yeah. We still tried to make it the same as it had been for every other game. And we were still planning to, go out there, play our best game and win the game. But yeah, I think obviously there's more pressure on a game like that, and people deal with it differently. Everyone has their own routine, but it had been so well practiced that it didn't feel like it had to be different in a sense.
So you had a little debrief after that loss. Did you do anything after that to kind of keep each other together, I guess? Or did you kind of have a dinner, or just kind of go off and come back? Because you had to leave within 24 hours.
Yeah, right? Yeah, pretty much straight away. So I think
debrief, and then
we had a team debrief about the game, and I think about the whole year as a sense, and that it was the end of the Olympic cycle. Obviously, for a lot of athletes, sometimes this is when they retire or different things like that. So during that, I guess, post-game debrief, that was the time we all, I guess, thanked each other and shared our feelings about potentially how we felt about the game, or if we had anything else we wanted to share or say. And our staff were really good at, I guess, voicing what needed to be said, in the sense that Trini at the time, one thing she really emphasized and I thought was really, really great on her behalf was we're going into hotel quarantine. And during that time, especially with our result, mentally it's tough. Like it's even tougher now that we've, finished like this and we're flying out the next day kind of thing. So she really emphasized the fact that if you need to contact someone, do it. If you need to reach out to me for some help, do it. Like it's okay to get help from people. And that, I think her saying that was so important, just because sometimes people just need to hear that. And also I think when she was sharing about how she was still proud of us and our performance, I think gave people a little bit of a sense of, yes, it has ended, but it wasn't all bad. In the sense that she was like, you still won 5 games, the first time ever in Hockeyroo's history. You still done all your family proud back at home. You still done Australia proud. So don't beat yourself up about it. In that sense, obviously, yes, everyone's still so sad about it. But after that post-game meeting, everyone kind of did their own thing, whatever they needed to do to, I guess, settle within themselves about it. And for me, I ate a few ice creams from the dining hall that night. So yeah, I think everyone dealt with it differently. Some people went for walks around the village. Some people just, had an early night. So everyone dealt with it differently. But yeah, again, I feel like for me, that sense of this can't be over was still really in my head, in the sense that we've done so well. This can't be the end. It just can't be the end. And post the game, when we have to go through the little media booth area. I remember I had Maddie Fitzpatrick in one arm, Sam Fitzpatrick in the other arm.
no.
So a little Fitzpatrick sandwich. And I was just like, guys, this isn't the end. It can't be the end. This isn't it. And they're both like, yeah, we know, Lordo, we know, like we feel the same. So I think that little sense of, we all felt the same was really, again, adding to that connectedness. And even though everyone dealt with it differently, we still had the same kind of emotion and feeling all together.
Now to the most important question, the dining hall. What was your like go-to? Like, did you have a taste of everything? Like, what type of, probably the first question, what type of cuisines did they have? Was it everything? Like just buffet?
Pretty much everything. Like you'd walk in and it's literally an entire hall of food. And it's
like how big, how many, like how was the line like? It's like a meter, like having 10 meters long worth of food, or was it like an arc?
No, so it was, if you could imagine like a basketball stadium.
Yeah.
Potentially without the chairs in it, so even bigger, without the stands as such. Around like one whole half of the edges was food from different like cuisines and stuff. And I guess they try to, make it as accommodating to every country as possible. So they have a big variation, and I'd find myself walking in there honestly not knowing what I wanted to get for dinner that night. And maybe, if I get to go to an Olympics again, I'd think it through a bit more, because I'd sit down with like, I don't know, like pasta, a pizza, some sushi, like such a weird mix of foods that, I wouldn't make at home together. But because everything was just like, oh, that looks, I'll have that and whatnot. But also like you knew what was popular, where the lines were, who was waiting to get what food. And that was generally actually the Japanese cuisine. Obviously they do it so much better in Japan, but they also had a different dining area, which was called casual dining, which was purely Japanese food and very traditional Japanese food. So if you wanted to have a bit more of a Japanese experience, you went there, because obviously we couldn't go out into the world, I guess, and experience it elsewhere.
What did you try? Like, did you try anything that was like you would never, like, did someone make you try something that you've never tried, like you never think you'd do on your own bat?
Well, some of the Japanese food, I honestly didn't even know what it was, or like how to say it. And all the people serving it didn't really speak English. Obviously in Japan, they're going to speak their own language. And so if you were like, what is this? They're just like, sign, like look at the sign, because this little sign has like a picture of a cow on it, so you assume it's something to do with beef. But like you don't know what it is. So I mean, I tried things, I don't always know what they were, but that was mostly in the casual dining area. It was purely Japanese food, but otherwise in the main dining hall you pretty much knew what everything was, because it was pretty generalized things. Like you'd have a margarita pizza, or like bolognese pasta, or some sushi. So
I guess you don't want to try something that's too different, because what if didn't agree with you and you had to play the next day, you had training, you'd be like, whoop.
Yes, exactly. You didn't want to reach too far out of the comfort zone.
Did they have desserts?
They did, and
I feel like that would just ruin me, because I kind of cut it myself.
Well, that's
probably why I'm sitting in this chair and you sit over there in that chair. No, you control yourself.
No, because they had this one ice cream that I really liked. I don't even know. It was like just like a normal vanilla ice cream with like almost a pink flavor, so strawberry yogurt coating. So like pretty normal ice cream, I guess, but it was, I don't know, some Japanese brand, so it's obviously different, I had that quite regularly on our rest days actually, and one time I stocked a few into my bag to put into my freezer in our room. But you weren't supposed to take it out of the but it was in my bag, so they couldn't see. So I put a few ice creams in my bag and to put in my freezer if anyone in my room wanted it or whatever. And I remember later that day, I think coming back for dinner, so that might have been lunch, I took them. Later that day for dinner, I come back and I open my bag with all the ice creams melted inside my bag.
Put it in the freezer.
Yep, forgot to put it in. I was like, oh, this is awkward. Now I'm not going to eat those ice creams.
Did they leak or they?
No, they stayed in. Stayed in the packet, thankfully. But definitely the ice creams were a hit. There was one of the vanilla ones a lot of the girls really liked. There was these cake. They had a lot of cake things. But
that's bad for me.
Yeah, I didn't try many of the cake things because one of the girls tried them was like, no, they're not good. So I just took their word for it.
They were like not fresh, or that doesn't taste good.
I just think maybe they were just like really rich. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Japanese culture is very rich, because they do have lots of rich flavors in there.
Yeah, so I think I avoided those. But yeah, on the last night before we left, I know a lot of girls went quite all out with the desserts because last night may as well. So yeah,
I feel like that food hall wouldn't be able to contain me. I reckon I could just smash through it.
Probably, and wouldn't blame you because there's so much there. You can get as much or as little as you want.
I could have. I don't think there's a limit for me. Food, to be honest.
Well, then
I don't think I've ever been pushed to the limit.
Well, you have to go to Olympics then.
Oh no, I've absolutely zero athletic potential.
As an S&C.
That's a good point.
Never know.
There you go. So other than playing in the Olympics, what was the biggest takeaway from being at the Olympics?
I think, yeah, obviously other than playing and the entire experience of being in that bubble, I guess I think I didn't realize how much of a bubble and how much of a village style it was until post games, looking at it going, wow, it was really just a mini village with all these elite athletes in it. And I think for me, one of the coolest feelings and I guess experiences was just walking, when I'd walk to the dining hall or just go for a walk around the village, walking past all these amazing athletes. I might not have known exactly who they were, and they probably didn't know who I was, but it was just so cool knowing whatever sport you do, whatever your name is, whoever you are, essentially, you're awesome at what you do.
Oh, not just awesome.
Well, yeah, you're elite at it. Yeah. And, sometimes you walk past people with a gold medal around their neck and you're like, oh, cool. This is so cool just to be amongst that feeling and environment. And I think for us as a group, we didn't socialize too much with other countries, and that was just a team decision.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, we just decided as a team we wanted to reduce the risk as much as possible because in our rooms there was 5 of us or whatever, and if one of us got it, we'd all be close contacts in that room and have to play with 9 people or something, and that's not what you want as a team. And I guess although we couldn't interact as much with other countries, we still as a team made it such a cool experience. We played spike ball. We had a spike ball competition in the middle of the games. Yeah, and we all dressed up in some of the more funky parts of the outfit. So of the uniforms. So we were all looking really funny. And it was, I remember a couple of days later, the USA swimming team or something whipped out a spike ball and we were watching them out our window. They're like, nah, we're so much better than them.
Really?
We should challenge them, but nah. So yeah, it was still fun. I mean, amongst the village, even though there was the restriction and I guess we couldn't go out of the village and whatnot, but I think still that whole feeling and I guess atmosphere and environment was still really cool to just be amongst, and seeing all the stuff that you don't get to see on TV, like even pre-opening ceremony. Every other year I'd watched it where the athletes walk around, the main stadium, and then performances happen and whatnot, and then that's that. But watching it, obviously we didn't go to the opening ceremony, but watching all the athletes in the village heading out on the bus to the stadium was so weird and cool to see it behind the scenes almost, in the fact that everyone's dressed up in their nice suit outfits and taking photos and whatnot, and just seeing all the Aussie athletes. Like I saw Ash Barty and Sam Kerr and all the big names in Australia. Was pretty awesome also to just, I guess, be able to see that, what I wouldn't have ever seen, on the TV back at home.
Yeah. What are some of your, if you were at the Olympics and you were allowed to go and watch other sports, what ones would you have gone to watch?
Definitely probably swimming for Australia, because it's so well renowned here and our performance there is generally always really, really good. And I think just that atmosphere would have been so sick within that pool area. But I know they kind of could stay and watch each other, so they still had a bit of an atmosphere. But I think if I got to watch any sport, it would still, I'd want to watch the hockey still, like the finals if we weren't playing in it, which obviously we weren't. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what other sports. I mean, there's so many cool sports that, I would have no idea what the rules are, such as like the Taekwondo, I think. I don't really know how it works. And I was chatting to the girl who was representing Australia for Taekwondo.
Oh, sick.
And she was trying to explain it to me, and I was like watching, because the male Australian was also performing on the TV, and we were both watching and just started chatting, and she was trying to explain it to me, and I was like, but he just kicked him in the head, but the other guy got the points. So points, so something like that I think would be so interesting to watch. But I'd also, if possible, would love to watch the Paralympics. I think that'd be so amazing and so inspiring to watch those athletes also.
Yeah, for sure. Did you hear the story? I think it was that one of the Taekwondo gold medal matches, one of the fighters, he kicked him in the head and he got knocked out. So he lost, in quotes, but the other guy who kicked him got disqualified because you're not allowed to knock people out.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's also technique, isn't it?
No, it's so it's on points, but he got knocked out. But you can kick people, you can still kick in the head.
I don't know.
But he got knocked out. It's one of the weirdest things. So the guy who got knocked out got gold, and the guy who kicked him in the head knocked him out, got silver.
Well, I saw some of the, I think, Taekwondo guys like training in the village as such. And I don't know, their flexibility is
It's
crazy.
absolutely insane.
Wow, yeah, it was. I was just walking around. I was like, I don't think I can lift my leg very
that's
high.
one of those
They're,
things.
like, above the head.
Taekwondo is one of those sports that if you don't start when you're like 8,
your flexibility.
yeah, before you start growing,
yeah,
because the first thing you learn in Taekwondo is like the technique and the kicks and that, and if you don't stick with the sport as you grow and mature, then it's almost very, very hard unless you do like 5 days a week of yoga.
Yeah, gosh.
To get that flexibility.
I could never be that flexible. But I think, like, honestly, if I could watch any sport at the games, it would have been so cool. Like, a lot of them are pretty awesome to watch. I mean, even the beach volleyball girls did really well. It would have been so cool to watch them in that medal match. Also, the rowers do really well.
Rowers pretty cool.
Yeah, and even boxing, one of our boxing guy, he got a bronze, and that's so cool too. So I think it was actually the highest medal count Australia's got in an Olympics. So I think, honestly, at any of the events, the atmosphere would be so cool to watch.
And even I know Australia, I think we only got one bronze, but the track cycling, I think the speed that they go, and it's just
the angle. I don't know how they do that. Oh my gosh, I've seen it before, and I'm like, I would probably fall over standing on that, let alone on a bike. Gosh.
So how did you cope with you came back the 14 days by yourself? What did you do in those 14 days to keep yourself occupied? Because it's only just a room almost this big. A little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger with the bathroom and shower and whatnot. But yeah, I think no. Well, I mean, I was a little bit jealous of the athletes who were quarantining in Darwin who could go out onto their balconies.
How did they get that? Is that an option?
Well, we as a team, being a Perth-based team, generally they wanted us to come here. But if you wanted to go to your home state, you could. So a couple of girls went to Queensland just so they could be home straight out of quarantine. But I didn't want to go straight home to Melbourne and then straight into lockdown. So I thought I'd come here.
This whole podcast was spoken about Victoria being locked down the whole time.
Well, I actually saw a stat the other day. Melbourne's the longest city to have been in a lockdown. So I really feel for my family. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I guess I got to experience that a little bit in the quarantine. And it was definitely weird. Like I just stand at my window and look out and people watch for a while sometimes. Yeah, it was something to do. I mean, I also had uni to do to catch up on whilst I was away. I had uni happening, so I had to catch up on that. But I tried to, I guess, have a bit of a routine in there. So I didn't get too bored and, too lonely as such. So I usually slept in, which was nice to tick off a couple hours in the morning, do a bit of uni, and I tried to exercise every day a little bit.
Did you just burpees or stuff?
Well, yeah, I just did like HIIT workouts I could find on YouTube. One day I tried like a Zumba thing. I actually did try a run one day, which was not good. Yeah, laps up and back. I ended up doing 300 laps for 3 kilometers of my run. About, I don't know, I'm assuming that was about the 10-meter length of my room. But yeah, I never
I've lost count.
Again. Yeah.
Did you count?
I counted to like 50s.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so definitely try to have a routine. So like try to exercise every day, try to do some uni every day, maybe watch a movie, try and call someone, whether that was one of the girls also in quarantine. And because we all usually had our meals at the same time, they got delivered because we were all pretty much on the same floor. I think we were split on maybe 2 floors, but I tried to call someone on my floor and, have lunch with them or have dinner with them or something, just to, I guess, have a bit of interaction with someone who's also in the same environment or whatnot. So it wasn't actually as bad. And I was a little bit thankful for that time in the fact that I got to reflect on our performance a bit more and not have to address, potentially sad questions about our performance. And although saying that, I mean, I had a Q&A with my primary school and I expected these little kids to ask really, really silly questions, about whatever things in the village, like what was your favorite piece of uniform or something so random and not really relevant to anything.
I was going to ask you that question.
You can ask it. No.
What's your favorite piece of uniform?
But I'm not sure actually. Maybe the bucket hat. That was actually quite a hit. But anyway, so I expect them to ask me questions that weren't really relevant to, I guess, my experience at the Olympics and the journey as such. And then the first question this like year 2 kid asked me is, how did it feel losing to India? And I just
straight off the bat.
Yeah, first question. And I was just like,
you up or anything.
No, this was like literally 3 days in quarantine. And I was like, too soon. No. I tried to answer that as best as I could. I think I was like, well, obviously it was sad. But I think, I mean.
It's a very mature question.
Oh, yeah, for a year 2. I mean, gosh, that's why I was expecting to be fine doing this Q&A. But no, but I think, considering we didn't do as well as hoped, I think that 14 days really allowed me to properly process it and I guess talk to the people I wanted to about it. So contact my family and I guess debrief it a bit with them before having to talk to people I wasn't as close with, I guess, in the normal world. But I guess if we'd done well, I would have hated quarantine a lot more because I'd want to go out and celebrate that kind of result with them. So I'm sure the boys felt that a little bit, with their silver medal. But yeah, no, the quarantine wasn't as bad as I thought. But that's my opinion. I know other girls have different opinions, but yeah.
Did you pick up any new, did you try to learn a new skill or anything like that and that?
Not sure about a new skill, but I did do some Legoing, which is very random. And it was quite funny. I was on a call with quite a few of the girls on one night, maybe like 6 or 7 of us were eating dinner at the same time on our floor. So we were on a call and I'm just there building my little Lego
thing. Did you
thing.
have Lego delivered to you?
Yeah, I got my best friend to deliver me a little box of items, I guess.
Yeah. Was this a random thing that's like, I could build some Lego?
Well, we also got to, I guess, we had quarantine bags we got to prepare before we left. And I had stuff in there like a puzzle or something. And yeah, I had this Lego that I hadn't done, but I think I'd had it for ages. And it was like, the mini like techno Lego. I think it was one of those. So I obviously never had tried it before. And I was like, I've got 14 days, may as well start it. But then I got so into doing it. I was in this call just like building. And all the girls are like, Lordo, yeah, you still here? Like, what's happening? I'm like, sorry, I'm trying to build my Leaning Tower pizza right now. And Leaning Tower pizza is going to be done by the end of the day. So yeah, don't know, not a new skill, but doing something alternative to stay.
Yeah. Something that you wouldn't have done.
Over. Yeah.
It's crazy how you start doing things there that you've never would have thought about doing when you have as much time as you want. Like,
the day's longer in quarantine, it feels like. So
you got out of that quarantine and have a long, when was it? When did the Olympics finish? Ages ago.
Almost 2 months ago now.
You've had 2.5 months off. Is that how it's been?
We had almost about a month off, I'd say. And that's when a lot of people went away, I guess, within WA or went back home and whatnot.
Did you go back to club? I think I saw a photo of you playing.
Yeah, I played our last club game of the season.
Just played one game.
Just the last game, yeah. I played a couple before he went away, but obviously missed out on a few.
When you came back, you just played the one?
Yeah, just the last
automatic
game.
In.
Well, a lot of our players actually were going on holiday also, so I didn't feel like I was stealing a spot, thankfully. No, but yeah, so I played the last game, but also, we had a break, I guess, of, just doing nothing, essentially. So, yeah, a lot of girls went on a holiday. I picked up a bit more work, so I was just working a little bit more. And then, after a couple of weeks, pre-season started. So,
been running and doing all that.
Running and doing a bit of gym, yeah.
What's your most disliked running session? Like, is there a point in the season where they make you do really hard running, like this is shit?
Well, there's actually one session we usually do like being decentralized. So a Christmas session, they theme it, the Christmas session. So you have to wear something Christmassy and that's always a killer every single year. The 2 times I've done it so far has been the worst conditioning session because it's like you're in a team of 4, for example. First of all, you get bonus points if you wear the best outfit. So everyone's going crazy with their outfits. Carrie Somerville wore a Christmas tree. Like entire outfit, and then had to do her whole conditioning in it. So you have to be smart with your outfit. You can't, wear something too thick and too over the top because you can't then do your session very well.
Sweat just building up.
Well, she was doing it in a goddamn Christmas tree. Anyway, so you're in a team and it's usually like a combined, you have to reach a certain amount of kilometers on the rower, running, on the bike, and then a boxing thing also. And it's some crazy number. Like, I don't know. I just remember at the end, we're all on like the bike or whatever the last thing was. I think the first year we did it was everyone was still on the bike. That was the last thing everyone had to tick off because the Ks were a bit further for the bike than obviously the run. And you have people like Rach Lynch who cycle, regularly just pumping out the Ks.
Oh, was it a bike or was it an air bike? Like a
we did
what an air bike is this one?
Yeah, we did that for the second year, but the first year it was just a static bike. And I just remember it was at that point. Yeah, it was at the point. If I was to try and describe how hard it was at the point where we were doing 500-meter bursts each on the bike. And the first year we did it, Jodie Kenny was still in the program. And I just remember I was before her, for example, and then someone was ready to slide the seat up higher so she could have a quick transition and get on her, ride her 500 meters, then swap over and run.
That seems like too much work.
Well, I mean, we were too tired to go any further than the 500 meters at that point. So it had to be a quick transition. And but it just
sucked.
Yeah, it was tough, but it's still fun and enjoyable. I think at the end of it, you're all in your funny outfits and you can laugh about it and whatnot. But, it's the last session as a centralized. So I think that's why it's always
bit of fun.
Yeah. Fun, but tough.
It's fun. But don't you feel that at the end of that, you're like, oh, that's feel so like you don't feel better, but like it feels good to have done it.
Well, yeah, it feels good to have ticked it off, especially looking at like the Ks. I can't remember exactly what it is said at the start, but looking at it and ticking it off. And I guess it's also like kind of fun because you want to be a bit tactical with it. Also, like who's in your team and who's good at what. So like Kalindi's a great rower on the rower. So you chuck her on the rower for more Ks, and then you have like someone like Jane who's a great runner. You just get her doing laps, going round and round and round. So it's quite fun that aspect of it too. Also,
funny story. I one of our Saturday morning sessions for our rehab group. The few of the guys had long-term injuries, so they were there for quite a while, and some of them were kind of getting out of the stage of that could do more than just a bike. So I was like, I'll do like a little bit of a team kind of style workout and throw some like air bike, some med ball, like clean, like do some like cool kettlebell swings, that sort of stuff. And I'll do 2 teams of 3, and then one guy, he was going to be the runner for the game, so he was pulled out. So I was like, oh, I'll do it. Yeah. So I joined the team and I wrote it all up. And I was like, I'll try to do it so like I can, I'm not the fittest, like, compared to footy players. I'm not the fittest, but I've got some good, decent strength. So I've got some good power, some strength, so I can do some quick bike cow sprints and I can sprint on the roller and I can do some stuff heavy, but I won't have the distance. So I try to get the team. So
so
we have some like 2 fit players, and I'll be the stronger guy, and then the other team will just with all the derelicts and go on that team. And we still lost, and I had to buy the other team coffee. I was spewing.
Always got to put odds on it though.
Because it was something stupid. It was like 300 cows on the bike, and we had to like rotate through. And one of the fit guys is a bit of a go-getter, so he thinks he's like a bit powerful, strong, but he's like, mate, you're just aerobic beast. Just was like, don't sprint because you get fucked. I'll do the sprinting. You just need to stay at say like a mid-level, and you can just cruise. And he didn't. He didn't give me enough time to rest, because when you sprint, you need more time to rest, and he could just cruise and take a bit longer, give me more recovery time. He didn't listen to me. I was like, Murray, I'll do it myself. Last question. I've heard you for long enough, but this is from my Uncle Frank. He's the number 1 listener of the podcast. So this is his question. If nothing was impossible and money wasn't an object, what would you do?
I have to think about the wording on that first, I think. So nothing was impossible.
Nothing was impossible and money was an object.
Money was an object.
Wasn't. I was going to say money wasn't an object. What would you do?
I'd probably like go to Antarctica or something. I don't know. Do something so random. Go to space. I don't know.
That's a good one. We haven't had that one.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
that's pretty gnarly.
If I could,
what would you do in space? Just hover, just
float. Yeah, I don't know.
Just go out in a spacesuit.
Look at the world. No,
that would be cool. I reckon that'd be cool.
I feel like I've always wanted to just go on like a trip just around the world and just jump in a van and go around. And I think if I had the money to do that, I would do that. But I don't have the money to do that. So that's a future Amy thing. But I think I definitely want to travel and like do some crazy things, like go skydiving, go bungee jumping, just all the, like the adrenaline hit things.
Skydiving? Like dual? Or would you like to learn to do it by yourself?
I don't know. How many training things you have to do before you can do that? Yeah. I feel like definitely dual, but I'd want to do it over like Maldives or something. It's a beautiful places like Bora Bora or something. I'd want to do it like over there. Yeah, I reckon
there'd be something sick about just learning how to free skydive like by yourself.
I think it would be too, and I've seen so many videos of people doing it. I'm like, that looks so sick. But I'm also like, feel like
it's scary as fuck.
Yeah, the amount of trust I would need in my parachute to keep me alive. I know in dual it'd still be the same, but it's both of us going down.
Yeah, but like you have to trust yourself. I feel like I would trust myself to forward and pack it myself.
Yeah.
Then being on with someone and trusting them to forward it.
True. I don't know. I just feel like also the fact that, just the first initial jump, if I didn't have someone making me do that, I'd probably take so long to leave the plane. Yeah. Like, no, yes, I'm going to do it.
And someone just kicks you.
Yeah. At least in dual, they're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, we're out now. Kind of, we're off.
Look, mate, it's been an enjoyable week. I'll keep talking to you for ages, but we've got to cut it here. Thank you very much for representing the country. Done a wonderful job. Done all of us proud. I love watching you play. Do you want to go shout anyone out before you finish?
Shout out to my family. Yep. Keep me going, and even though doing it tough back at home in Melbourne, I think kudos to them for a lot of what I've achieved, and that the fact that they're still staying strong and keeping active, and mum and dad working, and my sister still doing school, whatnot during the circumstances they have there. But also a little shout out to my host family. They've had to deal with me for the last 2 years here, but they're great. So
do you want to put anyone on blast, put anyone on notice, bit of a cheeky shout out? Some baghead and one with a bad haircut going around.
No, I'll give my host family's dog a shout out. His name's Luigi, and he's so cute. He every time I walk in the door, he's the first person to say hello to me, give me a lick or two. He loves to lick.
No matter how bad of a day you've had, they'll always be there for you.
He's always there. So that's what dogs are for, hey?
Mm-hmm. Where can you find any social media? Amy Lawton?
Amy_Lawton 6 is my Instagram. But yeah, I guess if anyone has more questions, they can DM me. That's totally cool. But yes, thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time.
No worries. It's a pleasure to have you, and hope everything in the future goes well for you. I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening.